I am so jealous of your coffee. It is day 8 for me, no coffee. I've given it up for Lent, and I'm struggling.
Without it. It's an addiction.
It's an addiction. Listen, I'm trying to get used to this green tea, but I don't know. Like, I just don't feel I get that same kick out of it like I do with coffee.
Because coffee and green tea is not the same. Coffee is an addiction. I mean, I say that, like, I have 3 cups a day. Green tea in the evening just to cleanse the system, but other than that,
but there's caffeine in both, and the caffeine is what's addictive.
But exactly what I'm saying. But then the green tea helps to clean the system. So
I don't know.
So I'm a caffeine addict.
Me too. I think I am. I didn't realize that I was, but I totally am.
Just take it with no sugar, no milk.
Better. Well, speaking of tea, good morning, Tea Tribe. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 5 of SPILT T. I'm here with Rea. Rea, thank you for joining me. Cheers. Welcome to it.
Thank you.
Don't you love my office?
Love it. It's so glamorous.
You know what? I think that this is the perfect office. I've got vintage Italian dresses behind me with this amazing exhibition, the Italian Retrospective. And you know, it's such a big time at the moment for exhibitions, like whether you're into art or fashion. I don't know if you've seen the Victoria and Albert Museum has got the biggest Dior exhibition. I read yesterday they have already, since February, had 120,000 people walk through that exhibition.
But you must remember, people are now more interested in history and they want to know how things came to be about. And I think in general, the younger generation is interested to knowing how a brand came to be about, but also the sustainability of how something can go from 1970s, 1950s to still be relevant today. Because we all know that as a human being, you can actually be as famous as possible, but you actually run out. But then what makes us who we are is the
heritage.
The heritage. And the heritage, the younger generation is becoming more interested in the heritage, better than, even more so than the previous generations, because I think they're more wanting to connect with who they are more than the previous.
Well, I think it shapes you as well, like who you are and where you're from. I mean, and if you look at these dresses, some of them are 60, 70 years old, but I would totally wear them.
No, they're beautiful.
I actually have worn one of them.
Oh,
where's mine? Mine isn't here. I've worn a vintage Valentino.
But can you speak about that heavy Versace?
Which one?
That one over there, the pink heavy metal one.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
I love how the Versace house remade that for Kylie Jenner to say, this is probably our model that will emphasize and show this dress the way it would have been worn in the 1970s. They did it in such a beautiful way that they keep it original, but also try to make it modern with a younger person who's more appealing to the younger generation.
Yeah, pop culture. I mean, but everything always comes back. That's the thing.
It does.
I was chatting to my mum the other day, and she used to have this box of sort of plastic, you know, that like costume jewelry, those big earrings and big bangles and things, and I used to play dress up with them when I was a little girl, and I used to love it, and she got rid of them. And I mean, that stuff has all come back.
But you know what I love about the 90s generation? They have this special slogan where they say they are the only generation that was born in the 90s and wears fashion from the 90s.
Who's that?
The Generation Z, which was born between 1996 and now. Remember, the 90s fashion is in.
Yes.
So they're like saying we're the only generation. The colorful clothes, the hoops. They're like the only generation that was born in the year that the fashion that was in the 90s when they were born, and they still get to wear it today.
And they get to wear it today.
And it's relevant. And honestly, they are the only generation that's ever worn.
That's true.
Fashion that they were born in. Yeah,
because I mean, the stuff from the 80s and whatever, leg warmers, all of that is not really in at the moment.
It's not. So the 90s fashion is, and they are born in the 90s. So they're wearing what their mom used to wear, and they're wearing it now.
Good for you guys born in the 90s. We're very happy. That is not relevant for either of us, right?
No.
I mean, we're not too far in front of it, but... So it's been such a big week. I've laughed so much this week. I mean, I think, you know, when you're on two sides of the spectrum, I've laughed so much, but then I've also been completely horrified at things that I've read. I don't know if you watched the James Corden prank with David Beckham.
No, I didn't, but... Please spill the tea, Taryn.
I am a huge James Corden fan. I got to see him host the Grammys last year, and his comedy is so clever. And I think that's what I appreciate so much about him is David Beckham was having a statue erected for LA Galaxy, who he used to play for, most famous player that's ever played for them. And he was a little concerned about the size of his chin and the size of his behind and worked closely with the sculptor, who I think was from Italy. But James came in and played a complete prank on him, remade a statue with a very elongated chin and a very ample bottom. And all the people that were on set were actors, and they unveiled the statue, and I have never seen someone more horrified in my life. How would you handle something like that? Because I would go wild.
No, because remember, David Beckham is the definition of metrosexual.
Yes.
When all of that came in, about a man who's men grooming, a man who takes care of himself, a man who shaves, a man who does his nails, and he's a definition of when men started looking after themselves. So I think his insecurities go beyond the fact that he could have gone under the knife if he wanted to, but he's always gotten away with it because he perceived and changed the way that men dress, the way that men are looked at. And I think because of the fact that he's such a popular star, we've never actually even paid attention to the chin until James made it.
I don't even see an issue with his chin.
That's what I'm saying. So we've never paid attention to him because we've always seen him as this nice young person, this beautiful man who came out and made suits, everything, and just made men look after themselves. And then the next thing, he has this chin thing that we didn't know about him. That's such a big thing to his personality.
Yeah. Well, listen, if a statue is going to be erected of you, I mean, it's going to last forever.
Exactly.
You want it to be, you want it to be
but it
beautiful.
needs to look as close to you as possible.
Yes. It's like in Madame Tussauds. Have you ever been to Madame Tussauds?
No.
And so that's where they make all those wax sculptures, statues of people. And some of them are so brilliant. They're so lifelike that when you stand next to them, you could be standing next to Prince Harry or,
that's beautiful.
Leonardo DiCaprio. The only thing that gives it away is they've got a slight waxy shine.
Oh, wow.
So it just looks like maybe you didn't powder enough. But then there's the ones that are just so bad. They are disproportionate and doesn't look like the person at all. And I think I'd take quite a bit of offense to it if somebody made me with a huge chin and a big bum.
No, it is.
Because it's like that's how they see you.
Remember, that's how they see you. And also it's how people that will walk past that for the rest of their lives posting next to it, and then you're like, this does not look like me. So who are they celebrating? Because
exactly, and it's going to be on Instagram forever.
It's going to be everywhere forever. Because I mean, here you are taking pictures with, people are taking pictures with your statue, but you look at it and you say, that's not me. So it plays a huge role as to how it's constructed and how it ends up being a statue. But also, what is more important, what makes you as a person to deserve to have a statue?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
It's not your big chin.
Not exactly, but also, why does David Beckham deserve to have a statue? You get what I mean? So it's all those things. Also, it's like, does he also feel like he's well deserving to have that? Maybe it could have been an insecurity of himself, not saying he doesn't want the statue, but at the same time, he does not think he's that big to have a statue.
No, listen, I think he comes with an ample, that statue came with an ample behind. It comes with ample ego too.
Yeah.
But I think that it comes from the thing of, nowadays, it's not just one person takes a picture and they upload it.
Exactly.
It's going to be on people's Instagram. It's going to be on people's Twitter. Speaking of which, is Instagram back up?
No, it is.
Because,
the whole of yesterday.
The whole of yesterday.
Yeah, it was down.
You know that in America, some people were calling the cops.
Saying that
Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp are down.
So what is going to happen?
And what is going to happen? I mean,
I'm sure they were thinking they're going to be bombed somewhere.
In 2019, when social media doesn't work, there's a problem. There's a problem. I must say, I found it very frustrating because I had a bridesmaid's dress fitting yesterday, and I wanted to send the dress to my mom, my sister, some friends to say, like, what do you guys think? And it just, that wheel that just spins and kills me.
I know, and it's like, I was thinking about it and I was like, what do us single people actually have to do? Because we go online to look at other people's lives. Because we are not talking to other people. Now here's Instagram. Actually, social media plays a huge role, because if you're single, it's your partner. But if you're in a relationship, it also
That's
ruins.
interesting.
Because if you're not in a relationship, then it also divides the relationship.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because when you're single, you're so self-absorbed that no one is saying to you, you're not giving
Don't go on
undivided
Instagram,
attention.
you're spending too much time on Instagram.
You're not giving undivided attention to anyone. So you're just paying attention. But when you're in a relationship, you have to remember there's another human being.
Yeah, so less screen time, more actual time.
So that's what I was saying. Then we, the single people, were like, okay, I guess we now have to find ourselves new people. Clearly, Instagram is gonna keep on dying. It means
and
we
you
must
can't
find
even speak to somebody on
you
WhatsApp
can't.
because it wasn't working.
It wasn't working.
I know, it was too much for me. It was too much for me. I've got that thing on my phone. I don't know if you have it, where it measures your screen time. Do you have it? At the end of the week, it tells you like how much time you've spent.
No, I don't.
On screen.
I just have the one that tells me how much activity has been on my Instagram.
Okay, because I've got it's. I think it's a built-in Apple feature.
Yeah.
And it tells you at the end of the week how much time you've actually spent on Instagram or how much time you've spent on your phone.
Is the intention of it to make people conscious about how much time they spend on Instagram?
I spend an average of 5 hours a day on my phone.
But that's little.
5 hours. So 5 hours is combined, obviously, emails, setting alarms, looking at pictures, taking pictures, checking emails. But I mean, 5 hours is still, there's 24 hours in a day, so that's like 25% of my day.
That's what I'm saying. It's
a
still
lot.
better, but it's still better.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all. I mean, people spend 10 hours on their phones and they cannot breathe and live without their phones.
Yeah, this is true.
Unless they are working or unless they're behind a shoot and they have to do something, but people literally cannot live with their phones.
They can't live without their
No,
phones.
they're not. They can't.
Yesterday I was on a shoot and my battery died. And it was like the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. Luckily I had a cable. I found a van that had the cable socket that you could charge your phone if the van wasn't on. And I plugged it in there, closed the door, and then it like goes 1% up, 1% up. You know, they say a watched pot never boils. So I was like, I'm stopping to watch it and I'm letting it charge up for itself.
But it's also the importance of access to wanting to know.
Well, exactly, breaking news. Media. Yesterday was a huge day in the media.
Yeah,
I mean, I was following the story that has so much to do with you about, you know, the strike and equal rights in media, and all of that stuff was going on yesterday, and my battery was dead.
No, it's
so in a nutshell, where are we? Like, what today at?
I think access, wanting to know things, it's human nature.
Yeah.
And wanting to know things at a specific time makes what media relevant, because that's why things become breaking news.
And you want to break the story first.
Break the story first, exactly. So and there's certain things that you can hold back, but I mean, what's happening in the media industry is very interesting in terms of the liberation of to say as journalists or as writers that we are not protected, but it's now time for us to protect what we believe in. I mean, it's only fair to fight for what's fair for you, the same way
100%.
that I would write bad about you, and then I try to.
You'd never write badly about me.
Never. The same I would write, and then I say that it's my right to do it because it's my freedom of expression.
Yes.
Yet when it's our side and we're saying it's freedom of expression or freedom of association to say we deserve this or we need to fight for the rights, that we also feel like now we've reached a stage where we need to fight for what we deserve, and then it has to go to a strike. It shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have to get to a point where transformation has to turn into revolution, because I think that's exactly what happened. Because as soon as we get to the strike, then that's revolution, which revolution then emphasizes on the fact that now we are going beyond fixing things internally, because if things are fixed internally, then that's the form of transformation, to say we are aware of our mistakes as a company and this is how we need to deal with them. But then if things then expand to the outside, then you're giving people not even allowing them, but also denying them that freedom, that now you turn it into a revolution, and when something becomes a revolution, it looks like it's fought for, when they actually even deserve it.
Completely, but you know what? I think that so many things, like if you look at history, we've just been talking about going back in time and all of that. Like there's so many things that only changed because people fought for them.
Exactly.
And sometimes you do have to, you know the saying, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, this is creating the smoke for people to actually watch and get involved and say, you know, this freedom of speech. And have we got photo bombers? Thanks for spilling the tea, guys.
Yeah.
So, you know, if people fight for things and people actually do things that change the way going forward.
Exactly. It's for the future generation.
Completely.
Because what happens is that, like, I mean, we're talking about history and everything, is the whole perception that in the media industry, we've never been allowed to join any unions or any form of being part of protesting or showing any form of resilience, because we are the ones who actually capture these things visually.
Yes.
But now we are the ones who are saying, no, hold up. We are actually the ones who are going to fight now.
Yes.
And that for me is, it's the most interesting time to be young in South Africa, but also to the fact that when we talk about freedom in South Africa, is that freedom takes time. And to exercise break every boundary of what freedom means is breaking boundaries, not just in politics, not just in religion, but in spaces where people thought things were okay and things are not okay. And, we need to stop making glamorizing industries when they're not glamorous. And if we're going to be one thing, we need to be united in the form that I respect Taryn's privacy and she respects my privacy, but also in the form that we understand each other, that it's not about breaking. It's not about breaking South Africa, but it's about how we build this freedom in all rights of aspects. I mean, you cannot say, we cannot be fighting ESCOM or Transnet and saying people are paid less, and we journalists are afraid to say ourselves, we are actually paid. We are actually also paid less. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
But can I tell you something? And I mean, guys, think about this for yourselves. Every single story we hear online is thanks to a journalist. A journalist has broken a story. Like, look at the story at the moment in the States. Huge college admission scandal.
I know.
I mean, that is just, and people that we know and love. Like,
I know, that's exactly. You look up to these people and you like, you know, and you actually start to feel like people become more educated because they are more privileged, but you actually realize all our brains are actually affiliated by how much you put into your knowledge. It's not where you're born or who your mom is or who your dad is. Are you willing to put in the work to be where you deserve to be?
And I mean, you know how difficult it is to get into an Ivy League school.
I mean, you were telling me.
I mean, it's not easy. You've got to have the academics, you've got to have the sport, and if you don't make the cut, you can't go to that school. But all of a sudden, all of these people have kind of wormed their way in. So someone who's getting like an average score that is less than brilliant is at Harvard or is at...
But also that what I love about it, Taryn, is that it has exposed what kind of associations that we bring our children into. Remember that whole thing of, as long as my child is in this school, they are sorted for life because of association.
Yes.
So if my child is in the same school with your child, and I know that Taryn is this big shot CEO or whatever, if my child is in that school,
correct.
I need to force my child. I need to fight for my child to be in that school, because if my child becomes friends with Taryn's child, my child is sorted for life. And I think that culture in itself has ruined, or sort of like have made people to sit in powers because of their privilege of who they are.
Yes.
And not willingly the fact that they worked to be they are. And I think all of this, what this New York story has actually done is expose even what private schools are doing, because that's exactly what it is. If I can afford to put my child here, they will be in the school, because I mean they're in the same school with Patrice Motsepes or Cyril Ramaphosa children or grandchildren. Therefore, if my son or my children are by association from younger age affiliated with
their future is going to be bright.
Their future is going to be bright. It's not even about what they're learning. Their future is not bright. Who cares what they're learning? It's who their friends are.
But listen, let's go one step further. Look at Kate in London. Her parents sent her to university where Prince William was,
and
not to be friends, to meet and be married. And she's sorted.
Exactly. And
sorted for life.
And I think those kinds of association, I think there needs to be more emphasis on how we raise our children, not to be smart, but to teach them to be in the right crowds, to say you're supposed to play with, and I think it also goes back to, even, I mean, growing up in the township, I would be told, don't play with that child because they are naughty. But no, it was simple.
I think you were the naughty child.
I know. But it's never been where don't play with that child because go play with that child because you're going to be rich. We don't know that. We know only that we were only told not to play with a specific child because they're naughty or they're out of control or they misbehave or they don't listen to old people. And then you realize actually when you get to the suburbs or the cities, in the private schools, life is different. No, you befriend that because you sorted for life.
You see the golden ticket, like they give you on Idols.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Also the ways of discipline and cultures is different. Where in the township you're told, don't play with that child. But there's never been a point. In fact, our parents were afraid, they still are, to have your child go play at a big house because they're thinking, what if you break something there and it's expensive and then they can't buy it? Exactly. So they prevent you from playing at that house. But now you get to the private schools and you're like, no child, that's where you're going.
Yeah, you're going to play there, just don't break anything.
That's where you're going there.
Yeah. I was reading, speaking about education, Missy Elliott is getting an honorary bachelor in music from the Boston University. So she didn't even have to have like any kind of college admission scandal. And I really also want an honorary something. So an honorary something. Like from an Ivy League school, like Harvard or,
that's gonna take a very long time, Taryn, because first of all, you have to be known and you have to be known globally for what you do.
Right.
And for what you do, therefore, it has to have an intention of changing people's lives. And if it has changed people's lives, people need to remember every day for who you are. Therefore, you get an honorary doctorate.
Okay. There are the steps to get an honorary doctorate, everybody. I mean, I think Dr. Taryn Louch sounds really nice.
I think, but also it's misinforming of people that if someone has an honorary doctorate, automatically they're a doctor. No, they just have a prefix to their name. I know.
2 letters.
Exactly.
That's about
I think
it.
That's what we need to let people know. It's not that now we're supposed to be going around calling you doctor. No, it's just the fact that you've been honored for the goodwill that you've done in your community.
Yes.
And therefore, you're not on the same level as someone who's an actual doctor and studied to get that as a qualification.
This is true.
But I think the recognition of the arts, I think it's important that musicians can actually be recognized for their music and be honored for it. I mean, there's a whole street named after Rihanna in the Bahamas.
Is there?
Yes, there's a Rihanna street.
I need to go there.
Yes, there's a whole street, and then there's like a whole course at Oxford named after Beyonce. So there's
oh my gosh.
So it's like all these musicians now are getting like the arts. I feel like the arts play a very important role in shaping society, and that for itself, it's not just about, like I said, politics are not the main core of what we do and where we are.
No, arts shape us. I mean,
exactly.
Those are the people we are looking up to. Those are the kids we want our kids to play with.
Yes, exactly. So
like J-Lo's kids.
Like J-Lo's kids. I mean, girl just got engaged.
Can we talk about that ring immediately?
Can you talk about the proposal?
Okay. The proposal's in the Bahamas. Do you think it was on Rihanna's street?
Rihanna can own anything in the Bahamas. I don't think they'll name an entire beachfront after her. But I love the photos from what I saw. That man prepared everything, and
I love him.
I love him, and I love that from the beginning, they made it clear that they needed to get to know each other. I think for the first time, this was one relationship where J-Lo took her time.
Because she's had many.
She's had many.
And many marriages.
But she's a lucky girl to get married all the time. I mean, I wish I could just wake up and feel like, I don't want this man, and wake up and be like, I want another man, but men marry me.
Listen, I just want to look at my hand with that. They've said that it's about 20 carats.
Wow.
Between 11 and 20 carats.
Which is how much?
Between $1 million and $4.5 million for the ring. But let me tell you something. I think, and you never know what goes on behind closed doors, but they both have got children, and their thing was they want the kids to get along.
First.
A-Rod's kids wanted to play with J-Lo's kids, futures sorted.
But that's the funniest thing, because, I mean, I think as a student now, because I'm studying law, do you know that their kids can get married?
Yes, because they're not related.
Because they're not related.
But that's weird.
But that's weird because you grew up calling each other brother, sister, then you realize.
And then you're actually husband and wife as well.
Like husband and wife. But I mean, the Jenners, the Kardashians, I mean.
Listen, I mean, anything is possible in 2019.
Anything is possible.
But think about it when people do egg donorship and that sort of thing. You have a child possibly walking around that you don't know about.
Exactly.
Or sperm donorship,
but also, what are the chances that, I mean, in our culture, we used to say when you marry within relative or cousin, you bring in the cows back home so they don't go out to a stranger.
Oh, so the lobola comes home.
Yeah. So it's like the wealth
back the lobola.
The wealth must stay within the family. So how about I marry my cousin, because then the wealth is within the family. So we're not trying to spread it out, and then it stays within the family. So I mean, I feel like that's the way the world should be going. We should be preserving our wealth. Taryn, the world is hard out there.
Listen, the world is tough out there, but I don't want to be marrying anybody related to me.
I know.
I'll rather just keep the cows at home.
I think it's the most
not send them out.
I think it's the most ridiculous thing across cultures to ever happen, that you can actually decide to marry someone who was once your little sister.
Yes, and now they're going to be your wife.
And now they're your wife. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, we have seriously spilt the tea here on SPILT T. Thank you, Rea, for being here with me. Cheers to you with your coffee and my green tea.
Thank you, Taryn.
And thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel on SPILT T. Follow us on Instagram at SPILT T Podcast, because you want to hear it first and you want to hear it right here on SPILT T. Bye.